Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another edition of Infection Podcast. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on X at Nicholas M. Craig or check out our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. Let's see. I'm going to click merge. Whoa, look at that. Brian with an eye Aldridge. Look at that. New effects, new animations that we're trying out here on the program. What's going on, Brian?
Not too much. Of course, if you want to find me, you can find me at Boise Computer on X, or of course at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Getter, Truth Social, other places that exist. So Nick, I thought you had messaged me with something. Yes. I assume this is probably where you want to jump to.
Yes. I had the pleasure of getting a haircut this afternoon, and these not to call the place out because I won't, not a sponsor. They have these. You get on like the wait list, Brian, for these mass haircut places, the franchise ones that you're familiar with.
Yeah.
And it's not an appointment time. They make that very clear, but it's an estimated time. So if they're like, oh, you're up in 15 minutes, I would assume, and as I think normal people would, it's time to drive there to get ready for your appointment. Yeah. So I do that and sit there and wait and wait and wait and wait. So while I'm waiting, I'm endlessly scrolling through the internet, and do I come across this gem. Twitch, of all places. We love Twitch. It's the greatest platform that's ever existed. They have really created what I will describe as a completely unobtainable long-term strategy with live streaming. They are so afraid of offending somebody over something. They are so controlled by words hurt my feelings and everything else that we hear from one side of the political aisle, that they're constantly in this revolving wheel of it's not good enough. This is the third time in the last couple of years, probably in the last 2 years, maybe 24, 16 months, something like that we have covered major updates to the Twitch community guidelines. However, this time is different, Brian. This is a lengthy, and boy, did I comb through this thing for the last 30 minutes before the show started. Not only do they go through the kind of community guidelines, but Brian, they give examples. This is the first time that they have given examples. So I want to go through this, and we're going to skip over a lot of it because a lot of this stuff is what I will call self-explanatory and should exist. For example, under safety, self-destructive behavior, violence and threats, terrorism and violence extremism, adult sexual violence, youth safety, things. All of these things are bog standard. There's no argument on any of these things. Where things start getting a little weird is when we get into civility and respect, Brian, with the first bullet point, hateful conduct. And I want to read this for you. Twitch aims to be a place where everyone can come together in a shared community experience. This vision is threatened when people experience harmful rhetoric and abuse on Twitch. Twitch does not permit behavior that is motivated by hatred, prejudice, or intolerance, including behavior that promotes or encourages discrimination, harassment, or violence based on the following protected characteristics. Are you ready? Race, ethnicity, color, caste, national origin, immigration status, religion, sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, serious medical conditions, and veteran status. We also provide certain protections for age, which is expressed in the thing above. So inherently, you look at that and you go, that makes sense, right? Twitch does not permit behavior that is motivated by hatred. Okay, I mean, I think that's fair. If you're coming on a platform just to spew hatred and be mean, that's an issue. However, what we have seen in recent years is this term hateful or harmful rhetoric is become a very, very blurry term, Brian. And what Twitch defines as hateful rhetoric, like, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump in 29 days, what while they might define that as,
are we still on Twitch? Wait.
We might be banned.
Okay, we're still,
because that would lead to the destruction of our democracy, which, as you're well aware, Brian, is obviously the biggest threat to our nation right now. So that's where things get a little screwy. Now, I'll note that they do and we can't go through all these examples. I mean, we could literally spend, you and I could sit here and do an 8-hour marathon going through the examples of all of these various things. And again, some of them make sense. Promoting, glorifying, threatening, or advancing violence, physical harm, or death against individuals or groups. Yeah, of course. That is obviously not allowed on the platform. Then they talk about slurs, which I'm not really going to get into. Calling another player a slur while streaming. I did find this interesting. Streaming with a Confederate flag in the background, given its historic association with slavery and white supremacist groups in the U.S., displaying this symbol in non-educational contexts runs counter to Twitch's commitment to being a service that is inclusive and welcoming to all users. That's a pretty hot take by Twitch.
Yeah, I mean, in some of these, I mean, we ran into this in COVID, especially, where it's up to interpretation with like some of what we can say of that, right? But the Confederate flag is one that has I mean, it depends on who you ask. It has very different meanings. If you take someone down south, I mean, I'm not from down south, but from what I'm told,
oh really?
Down south. I mean, you're more down south. I'm from
you don't
far
say.
Away from that you can get in the United States with Idaho. So.
Corn-fed boy from Idaho ain't from down south. Breaking news. More details at 11.
I'm not from Georgia.
Well, but let's be clear before you go into this. Let's look at and I know this is probably a stupid example, but like Dukes of Hazzard, a very popular television show, like that was blasted all over that show. I mean, you still drive through Interstate 95 and you will see Confederate flags in multiple states flying right at the entrance in and out of states. To me, this is just, I put myself in a situation, and I really do try to do this, contrary to what folks might believe. I do genuinely try to put myself in these situations, and I think to myself, okay, I'm a Twitch streamer. My personality is I'm some wrestling style guy from South Carolina or Georgia or Tennessee or wherever. And my persona, like Dr. Disrespect, all these other guys, is that I'm the Southern bred boy. Okay. And I have a Confederate flag in my logo or on my background, again, playing into the caricature of that.
And that used to be comedy, right? I mean, that's how they would play comedy. Sometimes they would do edgy things that the person who's doing the comedy doesn't really believe or think, just to make a joke, set up, whatever. I mean, look at what Dave Chappelle did. You want to talk about
Chappelle show was phenomenal.
You want to talk about having Confederate flags in the background? I mean, they had everything on Dave Chappelle, and you're going to say that he's a racist? Are you going to ban it? I mean, he couldn't do a comedy show on Twitch to save his life. They would ban him so fast if it wasn't Dave Chappelle.
I would agree with that. Comedy is one thing, but I'm talking about somebody building a caricature. Again, Dr. Disrespect is a great example of a guy that is a caricature of a person. He's not real. He doesn't exist. His whole persona is that. And let's be clear with all of this. All of this is personality-based entertainment. Yes, you have a couple of guys that are just the top 1 of 1% at the video games that they play. Yeah. But for the most part, when you go to Twitch and look at the top streamers, yes, they're good at gaming, but more than anything else, they're good personalities. And that's what people are truly interested in. So I put myself in this position of, is the Confederate flag being part of my stream logo or my loadout as I play this Southern whatever you want to call it? Is that really hateful? And is that being directed hatefully at somebody? And I can't really wrap my head around where the answer to that is yes. Well, it's nothing more than a character that you're playing on the internet. In some cases that you get paid handsomely for and are very popular with.
Well, let me think. I look at it from when in the 80s, when I was a kid, I didn't think anything racist about the Confederate flag. Like when I saw the Confederate flag, it would have been something that reminded me of Dukes of Hazzard.
Sure.
It was kind of you would kind of say on the TV show, it would say that they're rednecks or, whatever, they're hillbillies, something like that. Like that's what they were pushing with the Confederate flag. It's not until recently that I've been told and pushed by a certain group that it's actually a hate symbol. Like, I never thought of that when I was a kid, that the Confederate flag was a hate. I can understand how you can, you can make that assumption from it, right? But I don't feel like in the 80s, what I saw as a kid, as far as what I was taught, that there was any hate attached to that symbol. Like, it represented some people, people that lived down south, but I didn't associate hate or the Civil War even necessarily with and slavery at all with that symbol. And I think that that's something that's been more done since the 90s and since, in the 2000s, of really saying, oh, well, these things are hate symbols, and labeling all of these hate symbols that didn't exist. I mean, they could have existed, but as a kid, I didn't see those things. I didn't, think to label. So I don't know what the adults were thinking at that time as far as, oh, that means something. But there's nothing that ever put that across to me. So I don't know if it's a new thing they created.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's what I feel like. It's like they're trying to rewrite history, and I just never saw the Confederate flag as a kid as a hate symbol. And if you would have continued forward with people in my generation of making it not a hate symbol and just having it representing something else, then it would no longer be a hate symbol. But because you keep pulling it in and trying to maintain that it's a hate symbol, it will continue to be a hate symbol. There's
Correct.
some that will probably always be a hate symbol. Swastika.
Sure.
There's a lot of death and things attached to that. But
so I'm glad you bring that up, because that goes to one of the next categories under this. And we're skipping over a whole bunch because, again, we just don't have time. Mocking the event/victims or denying the occurrence of a well-documented hate crime or denying the existence of documented acts of mass murder/genocide against a protected group. They give a couple of examples. One of them, denial of the existence of a genocide, including the Holocaust. They give that as the example. However, I wonder, because Twitch is full of all these left-wing people that are all pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas, right, pro-Iran.
Hamas will say that, right? That's a stance of a lot of people that will on that side.
But I'm not even talking about that. Let me make this point. We are sitting here on October the 7th. 1 year ago, the Iranian-backed Hamas terrorist group slaughtered 1,200 people in Israel. And there are individuals on the left side of the political aisle that are still calling for more of that and are seemingly ignoring that it ever happened.
Genocide, right?
Correct. So, but don't you find the examples interesting?
They probably deny that it was
correct.
They denied that it was really that bad in the first place, or that certain things even happened, right?
So like, will these guys be banned for that? I'm trying to think of the really popular guy that's
what I would like to
super left wing, Hassan.
Hassan is.
So is if I'm sure he's talked about something like this, is he going to be banned for that, mocking or denying the occurrence?
All of his past videos and ban him for every time he ever mentioned this in the past?
Probably.
That's the kind of stuff they've been doing to other people.
Yes, exactly. So I just found that example to be quite interesting with what happened a year ago and what we've seen over the last 12 months with, college kids talking about freeing Palestine, death to Israel, death to, I'm not going to even repeat, certain people that live there. The things that we've heard in American lexicon that is very much on the same side as the vast majority of the political leaning of those individuals on Twitch. So I'm going to move on, unfortunately, from hateful conduct, because we'd be here all night discussing that. And I want to go to sensitive content, Brian, and specifically sexual content, because one of the issues that Twitch continues to struggle with is, and it's twofold. A, the rise of platforms like OnlyFans and other sites have bolstered essentially an entirely new economy. Twitch is got to straddle the line between trying to get a piece of that pie and also trying to create a platform that, I'll remind you, was originally a spinoff of Justin TV, because they wanted a place just for video games to be. And I know things change and the goal of the website changes, so I'm not saying they should still only be video games. But how do they deal with this? And it says this: to ensure content on Twitch is appropriate for diverse audiences, certain sexual content is prohibited regardless of the medium used to create, digital or non-digital. That's going to be very interesting with the VTubers and all this other stuff that, sexualizes these like animated characters that's incredibly popular on Twitch. Users are prohibited from broadcasting, uploading, soliciting, promoting, offering, and linking to pornographic content. And I only bring this up because a couple of months ago when Twitch went through this process again, on the show, I went to Twitch, went to most popular or whatever category it was, and found multiple streamers that were directly linking to OnlyFans and other sorts of sites that were promoting what Twitch would describe as inappropriate sexual content. So under this, all those channels have to be gone now because all of these channels were keeping it somewhat PG-13 on Twitch, while at the same time,
but then saying come over here, and
sure,
check out
which
all this.
Is a great is what I would describe as a very smart marketing tool. You've got a mass audience on Twitch. Get them there. They're on, they're on the website already. They're familiar with the website, and then offload them somewhere else behind a paywall, which is what has been happening. So I thought that was rather interesting, and I'm not going to go through all of the policies on that. But there is another thing here about adult nudity, Brian. Yeah. And this is going to affect us big time. Users are permitted from broadcasting or uploading content that contains depictions of real or fictional nudity. Again, coming back to that, regardless of the medium used to create it. Incomplete censoring, such as pixelization, mosaics, blurring effects, sheer or partial see-through clothing, do not constitute an exemption to this policy. Do not. So
that's what we were seeing, because that's what we were seeing on that one.
Absolutely.
Like the girl, I don't remember what it was, but they had a blur over like a certain spot, and they just had to stand what stage.
She's completely naked, but her body's blurred on Twitch. And
but I assume that like the game with that is like the blur's in a certain spot on the screen, and she's supposed to try to stay in the blur. Who knows what game they're playing with all of that? But I just, and so many of these things, like this was, they were doing all of this on a regular. Like most of the channels were doing a lot of these things.
And good for them. It was very successful. It was very popular. And I'm scrolling through Twitch right now to see if I can find anybody that this came out today as we're recording this live on a Monday. So I'm trying to see if anybody is currently close enough to this policy to look at. I'm not having any luck. Maybe Twitch has already taken out the broom.
They might be, They might.
It's also so hard to tell. Twitch now doesn't show the most popular channels. It shows like recommended, but since we don't use our Twitch account to do anything besides stream our recommendations,
we don't get a good
we like it doesn't.
So one
show
thing I saw.
Useful.
So content that focuses on clothed, intimate body parts, such as the buttocks, groin.
Where's this under? Is this under attire?
So this is under sexual content, about in the middle of that.
Okay.
That's one that, remember, there was somebody who's playing a video game, and then she pretty much just set the camera on her butt, right? Remember, when she had her camera on her butt, and then you could kind of see the game past her butt. Kind of see the game, you pulled it. Yeah. So that's the one that they're going to really be, because it says for content that focuses on clothed, intimate body parts, such as buttocks, groin, or breasts for extended period of time. So these women who throw their breasts on the table, have a camera pointing down, and then there's a slight screen tilted that you can see while they're playing League of Legends, that you can almost see a little bit of movement on the screen besides their breasts are going to be gone. Is what I'm hearing from this.
Dude, I'm searching
no longer
hard.
on Twitch.
I'm searching.
This is like a whole new Twitch.
That's what I'm saying.
Do you think that they are seeing what's the writing on the wall about what's to happen with probably standards in this country, that we're probably about to have a pretty big pullback of people crazies, and maybe they should pull it in a little bit before they get major problems from the government and the new FCC?
No, I really don't.
I mean, like, where's this coming from? Like, all of a sudden it seems like they're
I think
pulling it in hard.
I would suspect that this is coming from I don't even know how to word this. An outrage, probably in some cases from parents whose young children are on Twitch, because there is plenty of more than suitable child-friendly content on Twitch. Not all of it, but plenty of it is, that are fed up with essentially the site just being softcore porn, which is what it's been for years now. Well, plain and simple. I mean, that's what the site essentially has turned into.
You mind if I jump ahead?
Yeah, but I'm saying it's essentially turned into a blurry cam site. Like that's like that's insane.
Because when this first started blowing up, here they say artist depictions of nudity are only allowed in the context of public art. Because remember when they were doing all these body paintings and trying to do all the creative ways of showing nudity. So then they give an example to help bring that in, so you know what a public example of art is. It's not a naked person on your Pride Festival. It has to do with let's see where to go. Allowed examples: showing a nude statue in a city square, or streaming from a museum or an art history lecture. Those are all public. Those are not you standing nude in your room, standing and pretending to be a statue, and then pretending to paint yourself with, some really thin film of paint. That's what they were trying to get away with on this platform, for body painting, because that was the only nude art that they could seem to come up with that would be allowed in the current rules. And that definitely seems to be gone now, which is good, because they were just trying to come up with ways to sexualize videos to pull in money. I mean, but if that's what the site was, this has been the stance from the beginning. If that's where they're going with the site, then just say that that's what the site is going to be, and then people like us can decide if we want to stream our content on a site that holds that kind of content, right? But it seems like they figured out that they were either going to become that, or they needed to come back to video games and get away from all these women streaming on the platform. I mean, no offense, not because they're women, but
see, you just broke the rule. Of women. You just broke the rule. You took an entire group of people, which it was just explicitly against the rules, Brian, and broke it. Congratulations.
But the sexualization that tends to happen when women can stream, that most men cannot get away with. Like, I can't go on there and do the same thing that these females are doing.
That's true.
It's just not going to work, right? And so they get to decide: is that what this is going to be, or is it going to be about video games, which truly men and women can equally play, right?
I have been scrolling the entire time that you've been talking, and I can't find anything that even comes close to what we were seeing whenever we did that last show. I can't. Like, there's a couple things that are like, oh, okay, maybe. And then you click on it, and then there's no links to any websites or anything on there. They're simply just chatting. Now, are they in a just chatting position that is maybe a little bit suggestive? Sure, but it's not anywhere near what we have seen in years and months past.
It got ridiculous.
Yeah. It was a cam site for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
And I can't find anything. I'm down on channels now that have 20 viewers, and there's just nothing even close.
So here's what I think we're going to start seeing, which is kind of disturbing.
Okay.
So here's one for adult nudity. Here is where one of the only situations where adult nudity is allowed.
Okay.
Female presenting individuals' breasts with exposed nipples is not allowed unless actively breastfeeding a child. Why? My question.
Well,
so you're now going to have a woman who's going to sit there and stream breastfeeding her child. Why? That is the sexualization of the child. That should not be allowed. Why would they put, unless you're breastfeeding a child on camera for a live stream, why would you put that as the exception? Why not just say it's not allowed to be streamed? Why would you put that they can stream their breasts as long as they have a baby attached to it? Right?
Well, what constitutes a child?
Did you realize what they've done with all the rules up to this point? They've taken everything that you've laid down as a rule and they go up to the edge of it. So you decide the edge is, as long as you have a baby attached to your boobs, you can show them.
I can explain
you can show the nipples.
I've got an example for this. And we talked about this a couple of years ago as well. There was some game company that was under a bunch of crap, and you remember this, Brian, about not having fridges that were at the appropriate temperature for this, that, and the other. So this is them just trying to latch on to this.
That was like that was like
it was a major company. Yeah, I don't know who it was.
Activision Blizzard or something like that.
But that was a little while ago, and I can assume that this is falling off the same thread as that.
But why do they need to stream it? Like, why does it need to be allowed on camera? You know what I'm saying? Well, why not? Yeah, that's what got them here in the first place, is the why nots.
Yeah. There's a lot of other things that are in here. Examples, this, that, and the other.
I do want to mention one, though.
Yeah, sure.
Specifically, that is gaming related.
Okay.
For games where nudity is not the core focus or feature, the mature rated games content classification label is sufficient for incidental nudity. However, the sexual themes content classification label must be applied to gameplay that includes nudity but is not the main focus of the game. Allowed example, streaming Grand Theft Auto 5 with mature rated games content clarification label. So you will be able to stream because there's strippers and there's all kinds of stuff happening in there.
Yeah.
So they'll allow that probably as long as you're not running a custom mods that's doing something nuts.
That makes everybody in the game naked. Yeah.
Everybody naked and all kinds of crazy things happening that aren't in the base game. But I would assume this kind of gets around because who knows, like in GTA 6, they've got those clubs. They're going to have strippers again. They're going to have all these things that people, it's really tough for the streamers that are doing a first playthrough right when release happens, because you don't know, like, where do I need to not go into certain buildings? Like, you don't know what's coming up yet.
Sure.
You know, it's good that they're saying, hey, at least if it's going to be something that might be incidental, put the mature rated games content classification label on your stream, and then people can make that choice. I'm all for that, right? Make it to where a person who's not a verified age can't go in there. Now, that we don't have verified ages, so that kind of makes it a problem. You can still have a 13-year-old jumping into any of these claiming that they're 18. But that's that's really another discussion.
It is a completely different discussion. So with that, we'll move on. There'll be a link in the show notes. If you've got some spare time, I think it's worth a scroll through just to see all of the things that they highlight. Yeah. And to be honest, some of the examples that they give for some things in here are pretty funny to read. Won't repeat them on the show because they'll get us in trouble, but they're funny. So yeah, with this, if they enforce it, this appears potentially, Brian, to be a new era. May I say a new era of Twitch? If they
I think that's good, right? I think this is.
You know, I don't know that I agree.
I'm hoping things start to turn around. I personally would like it to where if it's going to be about video games, it's somewhere that one of my children could go, and as long as I had their account properly set up, I wouldn't have to worry about them seeing a bunch of things. I don't think that's the current case.
So I don't know that Twitch, I don't think Twitch is now what Justin TV used to be, which was a site for
like how it
everything.
Looks. Like if you go to the stream and
not even how it looks, but just what it used to be. The original Justin TV, if you'll remember back, was originally it was a life casting website, which used to be a hot thing in the mid 2010s, where people would set up cameras in their house and stream, and they'd just hang out. And it was very popular. I mean, we know, Chris Perillo. I mean, these guys back in the day, that's what they did. They sit at their desk for 12 hours, have a camera, and just stream and do their work and do whatever, and kind of just chat and do whatever.
Talk while they're doing it, yeah.
Exactly. So that's what it was. And then video games streaming became some more lucrative. They spun it off into Twitch, shut down JTV, and now everything that was on Justin TV is now allowed. I mean, this show is not necessarily a video game. It's related, sure, but there's plenty of like technology podcasts and sports podcasts. Yeah. A lot of that stuff streams on Twitch, and they allow that. So I'm not hell bent on them removing the content. What was frustrating to me was that we would see time and time again these stories about the community guideline this and, oh, this is changing and, oh, we don't allow this. Yet you'd go to the website and it was littered with it. So if you want to allow that stuff on your platform, it doesn't offend me. I don't use Twitch. I haven't used it actively in as a viewer in well over a decade at this point. So have at it. Like, do what you want to do, but don't gaslight me. Like, don't constantly be talking about this platform that you're creating, and every time I go on and click browse, just chatting, it's full of the same things that you say that you're blocking. That's what always has rubbed me the wrong way. But it looks like they've done it.
Yep. All right. Well, we've got a couple other topics. I'm not sure if you care. We've got some things on Pal World that's been happening. I've been kind of waiting.
I think that's interesting.
A little more to pop up with that. I don't know if you want to cover that. Well, also there's Kaspersky, some interesting stuff with theirs, and there's kind of a wrap up with Godot. I don't know. So do you have a preference?
Let's touch Godot real quick because we spent a lot of time on that last week. Let's what's going on with the quick summary for folks that maybe missed last week's show.
Yeah, so Godot was getting political, I guess is how you could kind of say it. And so, last week we covered kind of the back and forth, the blocking of people. Just there was a community manager that went kind of nuts is what it boils down to, and ended up blocking people. And Godot seems like they responded and unblocked people and said, if you got blocked, you can unblock, but it was a misunderstanding. Well,
always a big misunderstanding when something bad
always
happens.
A misunderstanding. So Grums has been he's the one who's really been following this really closely, and he used to work for Blizzard. He's more conservative, talks about politics and video games a lot. So here's what he said. He said, people asked me to go easy on the founder of Godot, and I did, but his recent posts show that was wrong, and he is behind everything you see at Godot. He's now on Mastodon, doubling down on everything. These are not good people. They want to silence and censor and purge you, and Godot did just that, purging anyone that disagreed with them. So here, the co-founder, or one of the founders, or this is the founder of Godot, here's what he posted on Mastodon. We'll chill from Twitter X until after the U.S. election. Almost all the hate Godot got over the weekend was pretty much people who had not a clue what a game engine is, what Godot is, or what a FOSS, which is free open source project, community made project is. Most of the ones who did were the usual haters, checking profile of haters. Majority pro-Trump people with weird religious symbology, or people with avatars, obsessions for anime, little girls. Sometimes I feel I am too innocent for this world. Okay, so that...
You can tell, by the way, when you're taking your rant to Mastodon, you're probably on the wrong side of history. Sorry. But dude, I love this. I see this all the time. Sorry to break your train of thought. There's a couple of idiots in the North Carolina political realm that are on Twitter, and you go to their profiles, and it's like, F this Elon Musk, F Twitter, F X, and then a link to their Mastodon account or instance. Yet all they do all day, Brian, is post on X. So it's like you guys are you're really looking like a grade A moron with your posting. And this guy obviously is known. Which, by the way, let's look at this. Going back to this, checking the profiles of haters, majority pro-Trump people with weird religious symbols, or people with avatars obsessed for anime. Those are not the same group of people. These are two very, very different groups of people, like instinctively. And the avatar obsessed anime group is on your side, by the way. Like, these are your people.
They realize, like, the little anime girls is not the conservative Christian right.
No, that's you guys. Once again, it's you guys right there. So, like, you want to throw the dart, throw it right at yourself, because that's what it is. And, a majority pro-Trump people. Now, why? Because they aren't cool with you guys just axing supporters of your project because you disagree with them
on
politically.
An open source project.
It's a video game engine, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah. So, so Grums kind of does a wrap up of the whole situation.
Okay. What does he say?
So he says, my wrap up thoughts on the Godot situation so far. The Western game dev industry is fully captured by the political left. The devs are on the left bully. The devs on the left bully and silence the devs on the right. On right. I don't know what that. He's supposed to be the right. And all public facing is virtue signaling and flag waving. Godot is no exception. But in this case, you have a founder that originally claimed to be politically neutral and naive, but who turned out to be the one whose political left boosters uh, be be the to be one of those political left boosters. He revealed his true colors on Mastodon, where he feels most comfortable. Godot is an open source game engine that is free for everyone. The spirit of open source should not be political, but to create a tool anyone can use. Godot has chosen to purge their community instead, to create an ideologically pure state of leftist activists. This violates the spirit of open source. But probably worse yet are the lies being told by Godot's community team, official statement, and the founder, Juan Linietsky himself. Once again, they are trying to paint gamers and game devs who disagree with them as hateful racists. This type of mudslinging and label affixing is an old standard tactic that used to work. It is designed to create fear, alienate you, and get you canceled. It is purely an activist move and inherently authoritarian, as they purge and silence anyone and create examples of others to attempt to frighten you into silence. It is also a lie. The Godot controversy did not start with their tweet virtue signaling themselves as woke game engine. While people noticed this, it was not a firestorm. You are allowed to market yourself as whoever you like, and the reaction was there, but small. Godot choose at that point to begin a massive banning spree against anyone they perceived to be on the right. They claim it was because they were hateful bigots, but the truth was it was mostly people who felt open source game engines should focus on tech and not politics. They wanted political neutrality. Godot even banned people who were not even commenting on the policies, and even platinum level backers. It was not a reaction to hateful tweeters, but a calculated and deliberate mass purge, even blocking some of the from the GitHub repository. Godot has chosen to be political and chosen a side. You may or may not agree with their politics, but you should be concerned that an open source tool is conducting political purges of half their user base. The creators and backers of Godot support this, and as I said, most game devs are captured. Even if they wanted to leave, they would be hounded and maligned as racists and risk their careers if they did, just for wanting to be neutral. They can't comment or even unfollow Godot, or they risk being branded this way. Gamers, on the other hand, and much more free. We should continue to pick games and game companies that don't engage in this type of political gaslighting and purging, who don't hate their customers or allow politics to create bad games. We are winning, but there is much work left to do.
Hear, hear. That's a great summary there by Grums. You know, and I made the point last week, and I assume most of our audience agrees with it. We look to video games, we look to sports, we look to media in some cases to escape politics, to escape the things that, you know, are factors of our lives day in and day out, and it's just so incredibly frustrating that it seeps into every single facet of life. And I think, and by the way, you won't undertake there Grums's comment about how game developers are trapped. I mean, Brian, your industry is probably similar to this as well, maybe not to the same extreme, but if you are you're muted, by the way. Depending on the company that you are working at, I know you spent some time at Google, you really don't want to get into a discussion or have any inkling or indication that you are a conservative or a Republican in some of these companies, because you will be, in some cases, publicly marred because of it. And that's a real thing that has happened. Yeah. We've seen examples of it.
Well, and that's the crazy thing, is it used to be people understood that some people were right wing, some people were Republican, some people were Democrat. You know, look at the 80s, the 90s. It was just a common, you know, you didn't think anything of it. People at your work were going to be one way or the other, and you didn't decide who your friends were based on that. But something that's happened and has changed drastically, is it seems like now the two sides are so polarized that one side hates the other. And that's just, it's crazy how it's changed in such a short period of time, where I don't think that conservatives hate Democrats, but it's crazy when you have a side that keeps telling you that you're a bad person, and you're, all these things that are wrong with you, and how everyone needs to hate you. Well, why would you want to like the person that's talking about you like that?
Correct.
Right. So it's like, if you want to create a situation where we get back to how it used to be, first of all, quit talking smack like that about the other side. You may not agree. I talk not about, I talk more about positions I don't like, because I don't think that, there are positions on conservative sides that I differ from. Right. I'm not a person who says, give me a list of what I'm supposed to believe and let me check those boxes for you.
Sure.
Right. And I think that's a big difference. But we've gotten to the point now where the one side is so polarized. They actually, and I watched a documentary on this. Where was this? I don't remember. No, I think it was a Matt Walsh thing, if I remember correctly.
Oh gosh,
but maybe
it
was
crazy
something like
right
that.
winger.
Well, no, I don't remember. Maybe it wasn't him, but it was something where they were going in and they interviewed a bunch of kids, and they asked them about. There was a picture of a house with a Trump sign in front of it. And there was a picture of a house with a Kamala sign in front of it, and they asked the kids, "Would you feel safe? Would you feel comfortable going over to this house?" And then they'd ask, would you be comfortable going over this house? All of the conservative kids said, if they were nice people, I'd be fine going over there. All of the liberal kids said, I don't think my parents would let me go over there.
Interesting.
Why? Well, one kid didn't say my parents. He started going off about, how much he hated Trump, and just started going off on all the liberal talking points, and really showed me why liberals are so hateful, because that's the stuff they're teaching. And
I mean, you put your kid to sleep with MSNBC on as their noise machine. It makes sense that that's what you get out of it.
But the other kids were like, my parents wouldn't let me go over there.
Yeah, I'm sure they wouldn't.
These
people
are
hateful. Are crazy.
They're bigots. They're judgmental. They don't like people, and I hate them. That's the kind of way that they go.
Yeah, they're nuts.
It's like they're sitting there talking about how they don't like those people because of how hateful they are and how much they hate those people. It's like, don't you realize that those people don't hate you like that? And you really have just created a fake like boogeyman, and you've created the hate.
Mm-hmm.
That then makes them nervous, because it makes me nervous when somebody hates me and is threatening me, and then I have to be right next to them. You don't think that makes me nervous? Like, you're sitting and telling me you want to hurt me. You're telling me that, all these negative things about how much you hate me. And I'm supposed to want to walk up next to you and feel comfortable. And and then all these lists of things that I can't mention. I can't talk about, vaccinations or any of that stuff. That's hateful. But you can sit there and tell me about how much you hate me. That's the new left. I mean, that's where we've gotten. And it's like, until that changes, that's what has been changing, though. One thing I will say is having RFK, and that one senator from Hawaii, all of these ones that were Democrats that have said, man, they have gone just too far and are walking away from it. Those are the middle. That's the middle. The middle is leaving. Where the middle tended to go to,
it's called the Overton the Overton window is what you're describing.
Yeah. And so I just think that we're starting to see that come back, because the one side's gone so crazy that we're getting the majority, because the middle's starting to be like, ooh, let's go over here a little bit. And that's a good thing. I think that that's what's going to take. And they're going to have to feel ostracized to a bit. I know that's got a negative connotation to the meaning, but if you're a hateful person, like, you should be ostracized.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. Popular. And people used to slam Trump for being a populist, right?
Well, they still do. I was arguing with somebody on Twitter about that this weekend.
So you mean the guy who believes in the stuff that your average person can believe, and then leans towards, being something, more conservative, that's the person that's the worst. I think
what has happened here is the Overton window, as we look at this, and we're drifting way off track, but that's fine. The Overton window has moved significantly, and these colors are backwards if you're looking at it
backwards,
from a political standpoint. But we'll assume for the purposes of this, we'll say that the Overton window has been moving more to the left in regards to the political leanings. Yeah. And what's happening is there's a realignment coming where this window is now starting to shift back to what is the middle. However, because it was so far left, the individuals that are still there perceive the middle now as far right. Because all you can see is the window. You don't have the context of what is on either side of it. That's what makes the Overton window fallacy so fascinating to look at and research and study, is there is no context of what is outside the window. So when something shifts so dramatically to the other side, it's a fair assessment that it's moving dramatically in one direction. But if you zoomed out and looked at the entire context, it would be very much in the middle. But that's obviously hard. And it would be the same way if it moved very far to the right and then it started swaying back to the middle. Conservatives and Republicans would have the exact same viewpoint that this whole thing is moving so far radically left. It's your perception based on what you're seeing at that period of time. I don't know how we got on that rabbit hole there. I want to talk something. Hyper politicization of stuff that just doesn't need to be, Brian. I'll say it one more time. I don't want politics in these other things. If I wanted politics in them, I would go do politics. But I'm not. I'm trying to play a video game. Leave me the hell alone, please.
I wanted to mention one thing that was kind of came out of the blue. So Kaspersky.
Kaspersky. Oh, yes.
Kaspersky was a very popular antivirus back in the day. Well, they just for some reason overnight deleted themselves, the program itself in the United States, and installed Ultra AV instead for all of their users. Because they're laying off all their U.S. based employees, because this is a Russian
company.
Yeah.
By the way,
not exactly in the
very good AV software. Kaspersky in the day was like top tier AV software, antivirus softwares. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, because in June 20th, the Biden administration announced a ban on sales and software updates for Kaspersky antivirus in the United States starting September 29th to 24. So, because over potential security risks. So they pretty much, but at least they installed something else so that people wouldn't be AV-less. I understand their logic on this. They're thinking of the best thing for their customer. They're probably installing the closest AV that is out there. That's a free thing that lines up with what they offer. And they installed that because otherwise it would just be out of date and it would put their clients at risk.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, this
is their opportunity to do a reinstall.
Yeah, but I really, really dislike this idea of a force installation of software.
They should have brought up a prompt and said, Kaspersky is going to be uninstalled for a computer. Yep. This is your option to either go find your own, or if you'd like, click this button and you can install Ultra AV right now and continue having a protected computer.
Instead, it looked like this. In order to deliver continued protection, your Kaspersky service will soon be moving to Ultra AV. Upon transition, Ultra AV protection will be automatically activated on your device. No action is required. Yeah, no thanks. Not a fan of.
I've never heard of Ultra AV personally.
Neither have I. I don't like the idea of. First of all, I don't like the idea of a piece of software of mine uninstalling itself. If I want to use an outdated AV policy, that's my choice to use. Don't automatically uninstall, and sure as hell don't install another piece of software on top of it. Not that. That is not cool.
So that's where they're. So that's where they're at right now. One other thing I wanted to cover. I'm sorry, we're going rapid fire here.
Yeah, hit me.
So Epic has lowered their royalty fee for games released simultaneously on the Epic Game Store. So if you don't have to do an exclusive anymore, but if you do a simultaneous release, your royalty fee could drop from 5% to 3.5%, which if you're a big game, that gives them a pretty good, especially since 5% that's the sale fee in the store, right? They're talking about not is it the Unreal Engine's 5% royalty fee that they're lowering. So this is for anyone who not just sells the game, but if they make the game under Unreal Engine and then they co-list it under the store, that overall fee for every game that they sell is down a couple percentage, which could be could be millions of dollars. I mean, who knows? It depends on the game. GTA 5 would be millions of dollars practically, for 5% of their percentages of their sales. So for bigger companies, this could be thousands and thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars easily for a decent sized company.
I find it interesting that you're highlighting the large companies. My gut reaction to this is the other way around, where you've got these smaller studios.
The ones that are getting nickel and dimed right now.
Well, not even just nickel and dime. They don't do a lot of volume. So for every game they sell, this is like, we need these dollars. So if you can make an extra...
They're trying to cover their licensing costs on their, animation software and their modeling software and whatever else they're having to pay for. Like, they're just trying to cover those costs.
Yeah. The big guys, yes, obviously, if you're moving millions of copies of a game, the fee dropping from 5 to 3.5 is a huge win. I just think of the small indie studio where that 2.5% or 1.5% is the difference between, like you noted, being able to pay the monthly royalties for a piece of software or payroll for your employees, depending on how many copies. I mean, you could be, for these small things, these small companies, you're talking about an extra couple $1,000s a month, $2,000-$3,000, which for a company like Rockstar or even Epic themselves or whoever is minuscule. I mean, they waste that away on their company lunch. For these small guys, that's payroll for one of their employees.
Yeah, and so I think this is something
that's great.
It's a pretty big deal, because these all stack. You got to think there's 5% here, 30% there, 15% there. By the time some of these studios are able to release a game, the licensing and the little things that have been tacked on because of how some of these agreements work, like, you're looking at all of a sudden you're coming close to a 50% in fees, and then you're like, okay, now I got to pay people. This is crazy. And so that's what, when they're knocking away at those percentages, which when you get enough things stack up to that 50% where, you want it to where maybe you're 30% in fees. Like, whatever Epic is giving you for everything, or not Epic, but Steam is giving you for all your fees. Like, you want that to be, all the different fees for your software and everything else need to fit in that. Then you have plenty to pay your employees, market, and expand. Like, that's what would be nice if we get those fees low enough to where they have more of a profit, because it is getting to be pretty tough of an industry at the moment with sales and how everything is happening. So
it's called Launch Everywhere with Epic, and it starts January 1st of next year. So interesting. That's going to be,
and they'll have that Fab store, which is opening up here in the next week or two. Like, I think they're really going for like just an all-inclusive platform that you can release on, and getting fees lowered for, at least if you do it on theirs, it'll be cheap. And that's the only place that they can really start, right?
Definitely. All right, Mr. Brian, where can folks find you online?
Yeah, if you want to find me, you can find me at Boise Computer on X, or at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Getter, Truth Social, and other places. Of course, if you want to check out my blog, biteoftech.com. And of course, if you check out our website, infectionpodcast.com, we have our on the upper right-hand side, join us on Discord. It's the perfect place if you want to play on one of our 11 ARC servers, or maybe you want to get a hold of Nick or I. You can toss some links in the show news channel if you want to help direct the next show. If you want to watch the next show, you can do that through Twitch or YouTube live, and then we upload after the fact to Rumble. We also have all the podcast forms at the lower right, so pick out whatever platform and service is the most convenient for you. Choose that, and that means that the episode has already been uploaded, and we'll have show notes for that episode. And built into that page, we've got a video and audio player right there. And you can follow along and select links that we discuss and are referencing throughout our live show. So that helps really add to the to people that are looking to get more information. If you want to support us, there's a support menu option up top, or you can go to infectionpodcast.com/support.
Mr. Brian, as always, my friend, greatly appreciated. We will do it again next week.
Sounds good. See you then.
Alrighty, folks, you can follow me over on X at Nicholas M. Craig. Check out my website, nickcraig.com. And as Brian mentioned, our website, infectionpodcast.com. That's where you can go if you missed any portion of today's program. Our show notes, you really got to skim through that Twitch article. It's a pretty good one. All that available, our website, infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.